I was sitting in a little tiny room, just lit up a joint. All of a sudden that room expanded into a huge auditorium. I was sitting up on the top bleachers, and at the bottom of that auditorium, on the floor, there was God and the devil sitting there. They were debating over me. And every argument the devil was using to convince God that I was his were arguments that I'd used to turn everybody on the drugs. Every argument he would use, God would come back and the devil would have to shut up. The devil would use another argument. God would say something else. The devil again would shut up. And all of a sudden, I'm back in my tiny little room, stone cold sober and straight, and I'm saying, what just went on? And while I'm trying to think of what's happening, all of a sudden, a voice said, Jim, you have a short time to decide. I used to be a type A personality. I was an A student in school, worked for Pepsi-Cola Bottling Company, and there they also had a beer and wine distributorship. Well, I accessed all the beer and wine I wanted to. By the end of high school, I was an alcoholic, although still getting great grades. And then someone introduced me to marijuana, and I loved it. And that just kind of took off in a whole different pathway. And after a couple of years of college, it was either the grades that were going to stay up or me that was going to stay high. I chose me, and that started on a whole different pathway in my life. I ended up not having a job because I was staying high all the time, but the perfect job became a drug dealer. I was great at sales, and so drug dealer fit right in, so I started in that pathway, and I was very good at it. Anybody I came in contact with, I began convincing them that they should try it. Matter of fact, even my sweetheart, who I eventually married, she would never do such a thing until she ran into me, and I convinced her. One night, I'd partied it up so much I had totally loaded, and that voice said, Jim, tonight's your last night to decide. It was like there were the crossroads of eternity, and I knew that night what it really meant. This way led to everlasting life, and this way led to eternal damnation. So I went in, I grabbed all the drugs out of the drawer, walked into the other room and said, honey, I gotta flush all this down the toilet. Walked into the bathroom, flushed everything down the toilet. Now I've got to tell you that I'd flushed stuff down the toilet before thinking the cops were knocking at the door, but this was totally different. And the moment I flushed it down the toilet, it was like this huge weight was lifted off my shoulders, a weight I never realized I had. And all of a sudden, when that weight was lifted off, it's like, wow. And I grabbed a hold of that white, cold porcelain toilet bowl, and I was just crying my eyes out. And I turned around, and there was Janine, and God had touched her at the same time. And I got up and said, honey, would you join me in a prayer? We walked out in the other room, and it was a really short prayer. I said, God, I'm sorry it took so long. And that was it. But I knew God heard it. I knew God was happy with what we'd done. Since I flushed those drugs and gave my life to Christ, I mean, it's been an amazing journey. I've blown it many times. I've had real ups and downs, but I would never, ever want to go back to what it was before because it's so exciting now. I was so conformed to the world for so long, and I dabbled in the world, and I kind of went back and tried all the things of this world and finally realized where the power resides, where the friendship and relationship, it's all about God wanting to be my best friend. What I call the high on drugs to high in Christ. I mean, high in Christ is like walking on the clouds every day. Your life is just so exciting with Jesus, even in the bad times, even in the down times. Your down times, your bad times are far higher than anybody who's high on drugs.